The anime begins by introducing Shiraishi Junta, a quiet high school student who doesn't have many friends. Junta usually keeps to himself and doesn't talk much to his classmates. It often seems like nobody really notices him. Junta's life at high school was pretty ordinary until one day something unexpected happened in class. Another student, Kubo Nagisa, said hello to him. This surprised Junta and made him feel confused. It was rare for someone to even notice him, and Nagisa, who was popular and good-looking, seemed interested in being friends with Junta, which made him feel uneasy about the sudden attention. The next day, during the school holidays, Junta was relaxing at the park, just passing the time. Accidentally, he bumped into Nagisa, who happened to be there too. She was curious about what he was doing, so she asked him and Junta shared his story. At first, he had planned to buy the newest video game but ended up standing in line for free tissues when he saw someone giving them out. Even though he was there, people didn't notice him, so he had to ask for tissues himself. Happy about getting the free tissues unexpectedly, Junta decided to forget about buying the game and just relax in the park instead. Nagisa thought his story was amusing and tried to take a picture to capture the moment. But strangely, the camera couldn't focus on Junta, so the picture came out blurry. Nagisa even tried to take a selfie with him, but it didn't work well either. Afterward, she asked Junta for his phone number so she could send in the pictures. Later that night, Nagisa kept her promise and sent Junta the photos. She also asked him to hang out sometime. After that, Junta felt really happy about the chance to talk and spend time with one of his classmates. A few days after their meeting at the park, Junta went to a bookstore. At that moment, he had trouble getting in because the automatic door didn't open when he waved his hand. Luckily, Nagisa saw him and opened the door for him. Junta was looking for a specific comic book, which made Nagisa curious about what he liked to read. Even though Junta couldn't find the first volume of his favorite series, he offered to lend it to Nagisa the next day. When they were about to head home, they found out that they lived in the same area, so they decided to walk home together. At that moment, Nagisa wanted to borrow the comic right away, so Junta invited her to his house to get it. When they got there, Nagisa was surprised to see that their houses were very close, because she had never seen Junta on her way to school before. Junta explained that he usually leaves for school very early. The next morning, Nagisa decided to leave early so she could walk to school with Junta. This surprising choice caught the attention of her older sister, Akina, who noticed Nagisa's careful appearance. As planned, Nagisa met Junta, and they went to school together. But when Nagisa's friends, Kudahazuki and Teratama arrived, Junta went into the school before them. Another day, Junta went to the bookstore to find a poster of his favorite comic from a magazine. When he got there, he saw a lot of people crowded around the magazine shelves. Knowing that, he waited patiently until he could get the magazine he wanted. But during that moment, Junta accidentally saw an adult magazine. Curious, he tried to sneak a look at it. Unexpectedly, Akina, who worked at the bookstore, showed up and scolded Junta for looking at magazines not suitable for his age. Junta quickly explained that he was just putting the magazine back and then bought his comic before leaving. After Junta left, Akina found a student ID card that Junta had accidentally dropped while buying his comic. When Akina saw that the ID card belonged to a student from the same high school as Nagisa, she asked her sister to give it back to Junta. She also told Nagisa about finding Junta's ID card at the bookstore where she worked. Upon returning to school, Nagisa met up with Junta to give back his student card, which he had accidentally dropped at the bookstore. She told him that it was her sister who found it. But Junta didn't realize that Nagisa's sister was the same person who scolded him at the bookstore, even though Nagisa teased him about flirting. After that, Nagisa asked Junta if he wanted to spend time together and asked when he was available. Since Junta liked indoor activities more, he said he could adjust to Nagisa's schedule. Nagisa was happy with his answer and invited him to hang out on Christmas Day. During Christmas, they planned to meet up, and to Junta's surprise, Nagisa gave him a Christmas present. Junta didn't expect this, as they hadn't talked about exchanging gifts before. But Nagisa stayed calm and gave Junta 15 minutes to find a gift for their exchange. So Junta quickly went to a nearby shopping center. While he looked for a suitable gift, Junta couldn't stop thinking about how cold it was outside. So he hurriedly chose a pair of gloves and rushed back to meet Nagisa. When he gave her the gloves, he apologized for not wrapping them and explained that he got them because he wanted her to stay warm. Nagisa felt a mix of happiness and embarrassment when she heard this, touched by Junta's thoughtfulness. Several days later, Junta's mom, Yosure, asked him to take his younger brother, Seda, to the nearby park. So Junta and Seda went to the park, where Junta saw Seda copying the poses of his favorite superhero. This brought back memories for Junta, and he showed Seda how the hero would pose. What they didn't know was that Nagisa was at the park and secretly recorded their interaction, making Junta feel a bit embarrassed. Skipping ahead to Valentine's Day, there was excitement at Junta's school as the boys hoped to find chocolates on their desks as signs of affection. But for Junta, it seemed like any other day. He wasn't used to getting much attention, so he was surprised to find chocolate in his desk drawer. He thought it might be from Nagisa because she had been friendly to him lately, but he was hesitant to ask her directly, afraid of misunderstanding. Not long after, Nagisa visited Junta to exchange greetings, and during their conversation, Junta mentioned the mystery of the chocolate on his desk. Seeing his puzzled look, Nagisa admitted that the chocolate was indeed meant for him, but she didn't reveal that she was the one who left it. She explained that she and Akina had been busy making heart-shaped chocolates the day before, and she had made one specifically for Junta. Later after school, Nagisa and her two friends met at a cafe and talked about their romantic interests. During this conversation, Nagisa admitted that she was starting to like Junta. Her friends were surprised to hear this, considering Junta was known as someone quiet and reserved. Nagisa then told them about the thoughtful things Junta had done, which impressed her friends. As time went by, White Day came around, which is when guys get chocolates to the girls they like in return for Valentine's Day. At that moment, Junta had chocolates ready to give to the girl who gave him chocolates on Valentine's Day. But he didn't know who the girl was, so he asked Nagisa for help, thinking she might know the mystery girl. But Nagisa kept her role as the secret chocolate giver to herself. Days passed as usual for Junta, often feeling like he was being ignored. Until one day, he accidentally dropped his stuff, and when a girl named Kubo Saki saw it, she quickly picked up his stuff and gave them back to him. At that moment, Junta found this surprising because usually nobody would notice when he dropped something. Shortly after, Akina approached Saki and Junta, asking if her sister had returned the student card Junta lost at the bookstore. At that moment, Junta realized Akina was the woman he met at the bookstore and Nagisa's sister. Akina also introduced Saki as her cousin, which left Junta wondering why only Kubo's family seemed to notice him. With exams approaching, Junta decided to study hard at the library, but he struggled with some practice questions, feeling confused. Shortly after, Nagisa came in and offered to help. She even borrowed her friend's glasses to pretend to be a teacher. After Nagisa explained, everything became clear to Junta, and he felt excited about the upcoming exam. The next day, Junta unexpectedly couldn't go to school because he felt sick. Nagisa got worried when she heard he was absent. After thinking about it, she decided to message him to ask when he would be back. When Junta got her message, he felt relieved and quickly told her he'd come back as soon as he felt better. The day after, Junta felt better and went back to school. But when he saw Nagisa, he realized she was sick now and had a fever. Without thinking twice, Junta took her to the school's infirmary. When they got there, Nagisa thanked Junta for helping her. Some time later, Nagisa and her friends decided to have a small gathering at Tomo's house to celebrate surviving a tough semester of exams. While they enjoyed the gathering, they started talking about class promotions, making Nagisa wonder if she and Junta would still be in the same class. On another day, Akina suggested that they go shopping before their planned visit to the beautiful Cherry Blossom Park the next day. While they were at the supermarket, Nagisa and Saki unexpectedly ran into Junta and Seda, who were also shopping. At that moment, Seda seemed a bit shy and reserved when they approached Junta, almost as if he had a small crush with Saki. Watching the four of them, Akina jokingly said that Junta and Nagisa with Seda looked like a family with children. This made Nagisa and Junta blush, especially when Nagisa's sister invited Junta and Seda to join them at the Cherry Blossom Garden. When Nagisa returned home, she planned to make a bento for the picnics since Junta agreed to join her. Initially, she thought she could do it alone. However, realizing it was a bit difficult, she asked Saki, who was good at cooking, for help. On the day of the picnic, they all met up at the Cherry Blossom Garden. Nagisa then brought out the bento she made, and everyone started eating. Junta even complimented Nagisa's cooking, which made her blush. But Akina, because she had some beer, started teasing Junta playfully. Nagisa didn't like this and felt bothered by her sister's behavior. She then scolded Akina and walked away from the situation. Later, Junta went after Nagisa to say sorry, but she told him it wasn't his fault. At that moment, Junta felt very upset seeing Nagisa leave. His brother, Seda, who followed him, went to Nagisa to try to make things right between her and the saddened Junta. Eventually, Nagisa approached Junta and explained why she was upset, then invited him to get some snacks. After that, Seda was thrilled to see Nagisa and Junta making up. After some time passed, Junta returned to school as a second-year student. He went to the notice board to check his new class, and suddenly Nagisa appeared, excitedly telling him they were in the same class again. Knowing that Hazuki and Tamao were also in their class made her even happier. After the teacher's welcoming words, he brought up the topic of the environmental committee needing members. Despite Junta's previous involvement and his work on beautifying the school with flowers last year, there weren't many volunteers. Nagisa remembered Junta's efforts and suggested they join the committee together. They both went to the teacher and said they wanted to join. On another day, Junta and Nagisa worked together on a group project. Pseudo Yuma, another member of their study group, was also there. Afterward, Yuma approached Junta, admiring the flowers he had planted and expressing a desire to talk with him for a while, though he never found him. Now, being in the same group, they had the chance to interact and formed a strong friendship. Hearing this, Junta was glad to have someone else besides Nagisa to talk to. A few days later, the school organized health checkups, requiring students to wear their gym clothes. When Junta put on his sports uniform, he noticed it felt a bit tight, making him wonder if he had grown taller. Nagisa, noticing his curiosity, suggested they compare sizes by trying on each other's uniforms since they were about the same size. But before Nagisa could return Junta's uniform, a teacher called them to the hall for the health checkup. So Nagisa ended up in the hall still wearing Junta's sportswear. While there, she overheard some girls talking about wearing their boyfriend's jackets to smell their scent, which made Nagisa blush as she realized she could smell Junta's scent on his uniform. On another day, Junta was excited to hear that his favorite anime would be shown in theaters. When Nagisa heard about it, she invited Junta to watch it together, and he happily accepted. Over the weekend, Junta and Nagisa planned to see a movie together and took the train to the cinema. At that moment, the train got crowded, and Junta tried to protect Nagisa from the crowd, which made things a bit awkward for them. When they reached the cinema, they found out the next showing was at 4 p.m. Knowing this, Junta was worried about Nagisa getting home late, but she assured him that their homes were close by, so he agreed. To pass the time before the movie, they hung out together, grabbed some food, and played games, almost forgetting about the time. Luckily, they made it to the movie on time and had a good time. After the movie, Junta walked Nagisa home. Outside her house, she asked if he had fun, and Junta bashfully said yes. After that, Nagisa said she wanted to hang out again, and Junta agreed, promising to make it happen. Not long after, it was Junta's birthday. On that day, he decided not to celebrate it and went about his usual day at school. While he was lost in thought during class, his empty stomach rumbled loudly, catching everyone's attention. Nagisa, noticing Junta's hunger, kindly gave him some birthday chocolate along with a heartfelt message. She had learned it was his birthday from his student card, when Akina had left the student's card with her. She also mentioned leaving a birthday gift for him in his desk drawer. Knowing this, Junta was genuinely touched by Nagisa's kindness and promised to do something nice for her on her birthday. After that, it was revealed how Nagisa first noticed Junta. At that moment, she found an extra photo of him in Tamao's graduation book, even though he was placed at the back with other students. Tamao shared Junta's middle school story, explaining how he often went unnoticed by others. Upon learning this, Nagisa became increasingly interested in Junta, particularly upon discovering they shared the same class. After that, she began to observe him closely, eventually developing affectionate feelings towards him. On the other hand, Junta experienced genuine happiness with Nagisa's presence, noticing a gradual positive transformation within himself each passing day. And the anime concludes. Moral lesson from the story: if you want to be noticed, just drop your stuff. Someone's bound to pick it up eventually. But remember, if you drop your stuff too often, people might think you're just clumsy.